All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to descend into the crushing absolute blackness of the deep ocean to uncover a huge engineering mystery. How in the world does a submarine, which is really just a fragile bubble of air and steel, survive in a world that wants nothing more than to just instantly obliterate it?
So let's just get right to the most important question, the one that probably keeps naval engineers up at night. What actually happens when a submarine pushes its limits and dives just a few feet too far? The answer? Well, it's not pretty.
It's an instantaneous, totally violent collapse. I'm not talking about a leak or a little crack. I mean a complete and total failure of the entire structure. And to really understand why, you have to understand the enemy they're up against.
And that enemy is this invisible, relentless force that just gets stronger and stronger with every single foot you go down.
Okay, get this. At just 1,000 feet down, which isn't even that deep for a modern sub, the pressure is already over 500 pounds on every single square inch of the hull. Try to imagine the entire weight of a skyscraper balanced on just the tip of your thumb. And that pressure just keeps climbing the deeper you go.
Now this crushing force, it has a scientific name, of course. It's called hydrostatic pressure. And really all that means is it's the literal weight of all the water above you pushing in from every single direction all at once.
So, how on earth do you build something that can survive that? Well, the first clue to survival isn't actually in the material. It's in the geometry. It's all about the shape.
So how does engineering fight back against a force that's pushing equally from all sides? Well, here's the trick. You don't fight it. You redirect it.
This is exactly why a normal boat, with its flat bottom and sides, would be crushed like a soda can in the deep. On a flat surface, that pressure finds the weakest points and just concentrates there until it breaks. But a curved, cylindrical shape does something kind of magical. It takes all that immense pressure and it distributes it evenly across the entire surface. It basically turns the crushing force against itself, creating a super strong structure.
But of course, a perfect shape is totally useless if you don't have the right armor. And that's where the submarine's really clever two-layer defense system comes into play.
So yeah, the shape spreads the force out, but the hull itself still has to bear this unbelievable load. So what kind of material could you possibly use to build that perfect pressure-deflecting circle?
Well, it's a two-part system. On the very outside, you've got the outer hull. That's the part that's shaped to be hydrodynamic, to let it slice through the water easily. But the real hero, the thing that does all the work, is the inner pressure hull. That is the crew's life-saving, perfectly cylindrical sanctuary.
And the material this pressure hull is made from? I mean, this is serious stuff. We're talking about incredibly thick, high-yield reinforced steel, or, on the really advanced subs, exotic titanium alloys. These are literally some of the strongest materials known to humankind, engineered for one specific purpose: to resist being crushed.
But here's the thing. Even the strongest steel in the world has a breaking point. And when you reach that point hundreds of feet beneath the waves, well, the consequences are just terrifying.
Just think about it for a second. You have all that pressure distributed perfectly across this flawless hull. But what happens if a microscopic crack, a tiny, tiny flaw in the metal, gives that pressure an entry point, a place to focus all its energy?
What you get is a catastrophic implosion. That tiny flaw gives way, and the ocean punches through with a force that is almost impossible to imagine. The entire structure collapses inward on itself, faster than the human nervous system can even register what's happening.
And look, this isn't just a theory. This is very real. The tragic loss of the USS Thresher back in 1963 during deep diving tests is a grim reminder of these forces. And while the Kursk disaster was started by an explosion, it just underscores how unforgiving the deep sea is, where any single failure can be absolutely fatal.
Experts say the entire collapse would be over in milliseconds. In that single instant, the air inside gets compressed so violently by the water rushing in that it would heat to the temperature of the sun's surface. It is one of the most violent events in all of engineering.
So we've seen the incredible danger. We've seen the engineering. So that raises the obvious question, right? What are the limits? How deep can humanity's best efforts actually take us?
For most modern military attack submarines, the official test depth is a very closely guarded secret. But it's generally understood to be somewhere around 1,500 feet. That's kind of their safe operational ceiling.
But here's the wild part. That incredible depth, a quarter of a mile down beneath the waves, it's absolutely nothing compared to the true frontier.
It's not even close to the deepest humanity has ever plunged.
The deepest anyone's gone? In 2019, a submersible called the Limiting Factor descended to the bottom of the Challenger Deep. That's nearly 36,000 feet down. At that depth, the pressure is over 16,000 psi. Building something to withstand that is the engineering equivalent of landing on another planet.
Which really just leaves us with this final thought. We have built machines that are capable of surviving the most hostile, crushing pressures on our own planet. And it just makes you wonder, what other impossibilities are we on the verge of conquering, and what other secrets are still out there, waiting for us in the dark?